Hello and welcome back to the Six Rings and Football Things podcast feed. Each and every week, our buddy, you can see him right there, Mike Cadlick,
Hello.
weei.com. We do our Cadlick's Crucial Clashes.
For a 2-7 football team.
I was going to say, which feel a little less crucial with each game that is
I'm
played.
gonna start calling them pillow fights or something like that.
Cadlick's Who Gives an F Clashes.
Yeah, seriously.
But the Patriots 2-7, as you mentioned, do prepare to head to Frankfurt, Germany to take on the Colts, a home game for New England against another middling, mediocre football team with a better record than you. There's some repetitive nature here, similar to the Commanders a week ago. We're in the supposedly winnable, feel-good stretch of the season, which doesn't feel so good right now because you lost to Washington. Before we get to the clashes at hand and the matchups and some of the different things where, again, it's another team that's not that good but has some really talented players that you're going to have to deal with. And the Patriots don't have a lot of super talented players to deal with those issues. But let's talk about, as we do, some of the big picture things. This week, we've talked about Bill Belichick ad nauseum, but this week it was literally brought to him in a press conference. Bill, are you coaching for your job? And do we, all right, let me say you, because I will give you my input in a minute, but you, Mike Cadlick, do you feel any differently about Bill Belichick's job status, how this should be handled, any of the big picture stuff right now?
A little bit. I feel like there was a stretch of games here when they lost those 3 in a row, a couple blowouts where everybody was talking about Bill's job, and no one had said it to him yet. No one had brought it up in the press, but it was on Twitter, and people are writing, could this be it, and what's the next step? And then a win against Buffalo and the report from Rappaport kind of squashed it for a while. It was like, okay, we won a game. He's going to be back. Things are fine. Nobody talked about it. And then they've lost 2 straight again. Florio comes out with his report that there could be, perhaps a trade in the offseason or something like that. And now it's kind of at the forefront again. And I thought it was interesting, but I thought it was the correct thing to do on Monday morning from Dakota Randall from ESPN or from Nesson rather, to ask about his job because it's real. And I've been watching and paying attention to like the national media's response to this. And a lot of people are like, well, how can they ask Bill Belichick about his job? It's the greatest coach of all time. And I feel like what's going on here in Foxborough, as I literally sit inside a closet at Gillette Stadium, like that, I feel like it hasn't really gone national yet. Like people aren't fully understanding just how bad it is here. They see the record and they're like, oh, it's another down year and the quarterback's not great. And, there isn't talent, but when we're here every day, we kind of see what has become the root cause of it, and it feels like it is Bill a little bit, and the lack of talent which he's responsible for, and the lack of coaching and the brain drain, and that he's responsible for, and he takes that, and so he always says I'm responsible for it, and now we're kind of holding him to that, if you will, and kind of holding his head to the fire. So, long story short, the fact that the contract and the trade and those sort of stories have leaked out from inside these walls tells me that they're not going to fire him midseason and that they're going to want to try and get something for him after the season. I feel like that just makes the most sense. Again, you have the greatest of all time and somebody who probably could get a job on the open market, and he is under contract. So you traded for him 20 something years ago, get something back for him on the way out type of thing. So I feel like that's sort of what's going through the heads of the crafts and, the upper, I guess, powers here or what have you. But I do think that if they lose this game, they have this sort of connection that they want to build with Germany. It just gives them another, I guess, tick mark to, okay, this is why we need to move on from this guy at the end of the season.
And the key is at the end of the season, because I'm with you. I put this all on Bill Belichick. I wrote my mighty Bill Belichick has struck out column. Like, I firmly believe that he needs to go, that if you're looking at it objectively, and I agree with your assessment, it's for some reason the national media is really struggling with this more so than the local, which I find weird. Like, the local fans and media are able to say, nope, it's time to move on. We had great times, but it's time to move on. The Nationals aren't yet. But I look at it and say very simply, a team that has gotten worse 3 years in a row, definitively worse, from a playoff team to a non-playoff losing record to a, oh my God, they could pick in the top 3 or 4 picks in the draft team.
Yep.
That's a fireable path. That's a
Right.
fireable, regardless of what sport you're in, like that's fireable. But I also, and we had Matt Light on with Fitzy this week talking about it, like, I literally think there's no benefit to firing him during the season. There's
Mhm.
no tangible anything.
So let me ask you this before you finish. Like my one thing on that is, what about a mini tryout for Gerard Mayo before you do the full search? You give him the interim, you see what he can do.
So I think that the Crafts believe they know what they have in Gerard Mayo.
Okay.
And I actually am not sure I want them to alter that assessment in a small window late in a terrible season for a terrible
That's fair.
team. You know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
all think the locker
You
room's an
don't have all the
issue.
resources. You don't
No,
have the guys you want to bring in. Yeah,
right. I feel like that would be doing a disservice to Gerard Mayo. So
that's
if
fair.
you think Gerard Mayo is the guy, protect him from what could go wrong now and let him start fresh in the offseason, build a team, build a culture, build everything, because
Right.
I think you'd be doing him a disservice. And that's part of why I think there's no gain. Like,
Right.
if Gerard Mayo's the guy, then you should feel comfortable he's the guy. You don't need a month and a half of bad football
Of a
and
team that's already bought out. Right.
right. Like, you don't need that. If he's not the guy, well, you're not going to find the guy because everybody's employed. I mean,
Right.
I guess the other alternative is you could give somebody else an interim option. Like, I don't even know who it would be. Like Steve Belichick, you give him an interim chance and like, wow, he really did a nice job. We're going to
Yeah.
hire him. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not
No,
really
right.
saying that. So, and then the flip side is there is some sort of a negative um, tarnish of the end of you and Bill if you fire him in November of his final season. Like, what do you
Yeah.
gain from that? You look bad. You ran Tom Brady out of town. Now you run Bill Belichick out of town. Blah blah blah. And then the other thing is, and I know some people won't like this, but if you get the little Raiders bump and win one game or win 2 games, you actually do a disservice to the team moving forward because you lower
True.
your draft pick. And all picks, as I like to note, not just the first one, but the second one, the third one, they're all lower. You get further away from talent. They're less
Mhm.
valuable. So I think it's just steady as she goes. Sir, there's an iceberg. Sorry, steady as she goes. We're going down with the ship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think it is now definitive, in my opinion. He can't be back running the Patriots next year. Like it's you can't bang your head against that wall again next year. So there will be a time in January when you make that decision and you figure out how to maybe there's a trade, as you said, maybe you can get something for him. But now is not the time. Now is
Ride it
just
out.
yeah, finish the season. You know,
It's crazy. It's
as my
crazy that
guy
we're even having this conversation.
yeah, no, and embrace the suck. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but embrace the suck. You got to do it. You got to, swallow your pride and take your lumps for the next 8 weeks and just figure it out. So, the other side of that is player side, the way the
Mhm.
players are going about their business. And we have the big story of the week. JC Jackson and Jack Jones were apparently late back to the hotel last Saturday night. Quick aside for anybody that doesn't know, most teams in high college football and the pros stay in a hotel the night before a game, gives the team consistency to its pregame, road and away, gives coaches control over them and, meetings and curfews. It's all so that is a common practice with
Yep.
most high end football. They were apparently reportedly late. They did not start. We now know why they didn't start. It wasn't just because Mike Pellegrino thought Sean Wade had a good week of practice, as he tried to strangely project in his conference call
Yeah.
this week. We'll get to that in a second. But now the report is JC Jackson, at the very least, will not be traveling to Germany. So am I wrong to say they were already punished? They didn't start. They didn't play in the first quarter, and then both of them got in for various amounts of time. There has to be more to it. Like, this has to be a secondary crime for JC Jackson, the way he's handling his business, maybe the way
Yes.
he handled his benching. Like, or is this double jeopardy where he's being punished twice for the same crime? I can't see that being the case.
He had to, and this is just me, I don't know this, but that from, like you said, the way this whole thing played out, he had to have reacted poorly to the benching, or more poorly than Jack Jones did, because oh, good. Let
Move.
me move.
Jump around.
Ah.
Okay. Well, this is awkward.
Well, I'm gonna stand up.
If you're not watching the video, Mike Cadlick is now in a dark room. Oh, lights are back on.
There we go. Yeah,
But it
we'll
was
just
like
do that.
suddenly it was a ghost story.
I know, that was
Woo.
interesting. So with JC, I think he must have reacted poorly to the benching, and more poorly than Jack Jones, because, and you, I don't know if you've probably read it, but I'm sure everyone, or a lot of people who are listening, have read story that came out from ESPN this week about how, JC Jack and Tom Telesco, the Chargers GM, basically had to apologize to their
My
entire
bad.
defensive backs room. Yeah, like,
My bad. I signed that guy.
we signed this guy to $82 million, a lot of it guaranteed, and he didn't try. He didn't work hard. He made us all look bad, and I'm sorry. And so I'm sure that even a lot of guys in the room now they saw the report, the Patriots, they see JC show up late and not playing that great of football. Like, he's been fine, but he hasn't been the JC Jackson we knew here the first time. And they're probably like, well, why can he continue to get away with this? So I think maybe he spoke up, maybe he said something stupid, and the kind of whole thing unraveled, and they were like, you know what? Get out of here for 2 weeks, reset yourself, what have you. And I'm sure Jack Jones, who has already been through it several times, he was suspended last season. He obviously had the incident at the airport with the guns. I'm sure that, and this is just me, again, this is speculation, but I think Jack Jones might be like, okay, I've done this before. I did mess up again. Let me take my lumps. I was benched. I'll sit on the bench and, pout, but I'm not going to bark back at Bill Belichick like I might have last year. And so he probably took it. So that's why he's back. And I bet JC might have done a little more, said a little more to deserve you know what, get out of here for a few weeks.
So yeah, this is I was very critical of sort of the culture surrounding Jack Jones and Trent Brown. Even back in August, I would have cut Trent Brown. I'd cut all three of them right now. I can lose with you or I can lose without you.
Yeah.
You're not the type of player I want to deal with, especially I can't envision Bill as a 71-year-old coach dealing with this. Like,
I know.
I would be like, no, I don't have time for this. F you, get the hell out of my football building. And we had Matthew Slater, and I keep going back to this, in Miami talking about we're going to find out about the character of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know, and I know this seems really critical, but we kind of know the character of Trent Brown, J.C. Jackson, and Jack Jones. They have a track record. They have you end up at multiple colleges for a reason. You end up suspended in the NFL for a reason, or traded barely a year after you sign an $80 million deal for a reason.
Right.
Like, they are who we thought they were. And I thought the Patriots were very happy to move on from J.C. Jackson a couple of years ago. Like, they were very happy to get what they had gotten out of him.
Yeah.
And then they were very happy to let somebody else.
To not have to pay him the kind of money
Right.
that LA, yeah.
Like, I think
sure.
Steve Belichick said, like, I was happy to see him get paid. Like, yeah, let somebody else do that. And I know he comes back with no financial risk, but you have this risk. You have the risk of a bad apple disrupting the apple cart. Even if the apple cart is sort of rotten throughout and has issues,
Right.
you don't want to add another rotten apple. So this is another example of what I call desperation. In desperation for talent, specifically at tackle and cornerback, you hitched your wagon to guys that they are who Mike Singletary thought they were. Can't win with them. Won't do it. Can't do it, except you're trying to do it. And you keep trying to do it, and you're not going to do it. So that is what it is. And I guess, again, that has to play itself out. Wouldn't stun me, particularly with the cornerbacks, if one of those cornerbacks doesn't make it through the rest of the season, the way this is trending and going. Because, again, I can lose. I can give up multiple 100-yard games to the Miami Dolphins with or without you guys. Like, you didn't really do anything for me. But
that's I could see them parting ways with JC Jackson here soon. Like, I just think the fact that he is away from the team, and the reason they brought him in was because it was, he was like a fire extinguisher on the cornerback room that was crumbling like the house of cards. You mentioned probably my first week starting at WEI. You're like, hey, I'm Andy. Nice to meet you. The cornerback room's a house of cards. Like, so, and it crumbled, and they brought in JC for that. And the fact that they're now like, okay, we don't need to keep you around to fix it, tells me that they're pretty much done with him. So, Jack Jones, I think they'll still give that leash, because he is on his rookie deal and he has been pretty good. And maybe, despite still making mistakes, might be understanding that he does make mistakes, if you will. Like, I don't know. That it's kind of me giving him a little bit too long of a leash, I think. But I could basically I could see JC being out of here soon.
Another guy that I feel like the talk has really quieted down in a weird way. And that would be, and this is our last big picture question before we get into Kadlick's mildly interesting clashes in Germany.
Yep.
Mac Jones is the quarterback of the New England Patriots.
Mhm.
People have want to run him out of town for various periods, including this season, or bench him, or do this, or go to Malik, or go to Zappy. Now I feel like it's kind of just resignation that Mac's the quarterback, even though he's not winning, he's still
Right.
making mistakes. But the one or two things I want to add to the discussion to get your view of Mac Jones right now is one, his passive aggressiveness. That's a great question when you ask about,
Yeah.
I throw to guys that are never open and it looks easier for other teams. Why doesn't it look easy for you guys?
Mhm.
And I don't know if you saw this, but Burt Breer on NBC Sports Boston had a comment about the coaches being frustrated with Mac's decision making, and like he's even looking past like open receivers,
Mhm.
missing like the read that's supposed to be there. To me, that's starting to border on like character assassination, mudslinging. Because I don't know about you, I don't see anything that to me looks like conduct detrimental to the team or intentionally like sabotage. I
No.
think I think he's lost. I think he's
Yeah.
not very good right now. I think we've used the word broken over the last year plus multiple times. I think there's all of that, but I don't
Yeah.
think he's going to the line like, I'll show them. Yeah, I know that slant's going to be open, but I'm not throwing the effing slant. Screw you.
Right.
I don't. So where do you feel like Mac is in terms of holding on to his job for the rest of the season?
Mhm.
Where is Mac in terms of his relationship, I guess, with the coaches, and how this, even if it's his final season, how this final season plays out?
Do you remember, Tate Martell? He was a quarterback,
Yep.
went to Ohio State, and he
Yep.
was in that QB1
QB1 and
series.
then bounced
And
around and
yeah, so there was that was when they were in high school, and I remember there was a clip of him, and it actually resurfaced the other day, which is how I remembered this. And he completely changed the play on the field, no rhyme or reason to it, because he wanted to throw a touchdown instead of run it. And ball was incomplete, and they yanked him from the game, and they were like, "That's not what you do," and they put in the backup and whatever. And it I saw that, and that reminded me of it. I don't think Mac's doing that. I don't think
right.
he's like just, because you see him, and we talk about Mac being broken and everything. And at one point I did think he was sort of completely broken with what's gone on around here, and then he played a little bit better, and now he's just kind of fine. He's not making like the jaw-dropping pick six mistakes that he did in that middle part, but it's still not, you know, it's still not a fluid operation by any means. I mean,
Right.
they're scratching and clawing and like bleeding to try and score 17 points.
And he didn't throw a pick last week. Like he did
Right.
on paper,
Exactly.
but his pick hit the receiver perfectly in the hand. So
Mhm.
you're right. That's different. It's not even the Kendrick Bourne one that was behind him against the Eagles,
Yeah.
or a really bad late back foot cross the field against the
Right.
Cowboys. This was, and you saw Mac's reaction when he went like down to his knees and he's like this, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I can't believe I am snake bitten right now. I hit the guy
Yeah.
in the hands and it ends up a pick. So
Right.
yeah, I agree with that. It's better. It's not
Yeah.
good enough. It's not good, but it's
And yeah, and if you watch him pre-snap, he knows this offense. He understands how to get the answers to the test. They drain the play clock with, alerts, and they move guys to find out man versus zone, and they see
yep.
who's coming, and they wait, and he readjusts the line. Like, Mac does it all, and it's almost like too tedious in my opinion. Like, just run a damn play, because they do it and he gets it, but then he doesn't have the time, or he doesn't have the skill position players to succeed in the play. So he knows where he's supposed to go with the football, it seems, and then it just blows up in his face.
Right.
So, long story short, I do think they are gonna just stick with him the rest of the way. I do love his comments in the media. I do. I just think at this point they've done so much wrong to him, and look, I do carry his water a lot because I do think with everything around him, he could succeed in this league, but they haven't given it to him here. They knew the type of quarterback they were taking 15th overall, and they didn't do the things they needed to do around him to make him succeed. So I understand, like, a lot of times when you're asked a question in the media, you want to just tell the truth. And he kind of just did. He's like, no, that's a good point. Like, tongue in cheek, we don't get separation. And these guys aren't open all the time, like the Chiefs or the Eagles or things like that. And so he's probably pretty upset. I don't think he's, infiltrating the locker room from within necessarily with like the thing with Breer where they're kind of pissed off about the way he's making decisions. I just think, look, maybe they call the play for the one he described as like a seam route to Gesicki and he was open. And maybe he just didn't trust Gesicki was going to be there. Or maybe he didn't trust the line in front of him was going to hold up in time. And so he kind of got scatterbrained before and was like, well, I don't think this is going to be here. So I changed my mind because Bill talked about Mike Gesicki being their 5th wide receiver the other day. And he's the 2nd highest paid skill position player on or 3rd maybe behind like Henry and Juju. And he hasn't done anything this year. He has the 1 catch, the 1 touchdown in that comeback. And besides that, he's done jack squat. So
I don't like to say I told you so.
Yeah, no 12 touchdowns, Kevin Stone.
He was the most overrated player on the field from July straight on through. Like, no
100%.
offense, but all y'all took the bait and
no, I'll take it. Yeah.
Somebody called him unicorn. Somebody called him like a matchup nightmare. And like,
I probably could have done that in as many words. Yeah. No, I was high on him. I thought it was good.
And,
I thought,
and I don't blame you because guess what? You don't make a whole lot of money to say that. No offense, but like we're not making hundreds of thousands and millions. The coaches and personnel people are, and I think they thought it too.
Exactly. So that him and Juju, I was high on it. I took the cheese. I'll take it. And so, but yeah, so I think in that situation, like Mac might just not trust the guys around him. So he thinks he has to try and do it all. He doesn't have the skill set to do it all. And in turn, the offense can't score 20 points.
Right. Okay. So speaking of the offense not being able to score 20 points, they may need to score 20 points this week because for whatever the Colts are, they actually put up, 21 plus points in 8 of 9 games. So seems like you're going to need at least 21 points to be in this football game. Patriots and Colts at some stadium in Frankfurt. I'm not going to pretend to know the name of it.
I think it's called Frankfurt Stadium.
Oh, okay. Frankfurt Stadium. All I know about it is I watched a game there last week. There's a low scoreboard that my money is on Bryce Behringer hitting at some point during the game. Bryce Behringer, who has also made the top 5 favorite Patriots for Andy Hart list at this point in the season. Not a lot of options to pull from.
Nope.
So, Mike Kadlick, as we get ready for this Gardner Minshew, Mac Jones matchup across the pond, what is the first kind of crucial clash we are going to fixate on?
Yeah, so the way we opened the show, it was kind of are they really clashes anymore? Are they kind of pillow fights? And admittedly, going through these columns every week and trying to find what to look for in these games, it gets tough when it's a 2-7 team and it's a 4-5 team across the board, across the sideline with a backup quarterback. And so I took the time to kind of listen to what, Belichick and Mac were telling us on Wednesday to figure out what they think is, the problems with the Colts. And so one thing Belichick said was he mentioned the big 3 on the Colts defense. I took that to mean the 2 linebackers, Zaire Franklin and Darius Leonard, and DeForest Buckner, defensive tackle on the front line. So I'm going with Mac Jones against those 3 guys because we just talked about the offense, so we can kind of, build that in here. The offense is struggling. They're struggling not only against good defenses, but subpar defenses in the, in the Commanders last weekend, obviously not being able to reach 20 points in a game against a team that just traded away their 2 best players on defense and don't have a great secondary. So I'm looking at sort of how they match up against them. And Mac Jones talked about it this week, just how, their work's cut out for them. They have good players. And even though the Colts are 4-5 and on their backup quarterback, like Zaire Franklin leads the league in tackles. Darius Leonard is like a 3-time first-team All-Pro. And in my opinion, DeForest Buckner is like a top 3-4 defensive tackle in the game. He's like 6'9", freaking like he's a monster, and he's disruptive on the front. He tips the balls and he leads them in sacks. And so there are guys that they're going to have to look out for in this defense. And having said and mentioned Mac's pre-snap adjustments and knowing where guys are, and he's going to have his eyes on all 3 of these guys at once. So I'm interested to see how they attack not only, the front and the front seven, but even like the guys in the back end too. So it's Mac Jones against this defense. I think it's kind of it's basic, but they have three guys on there that can be disruptive. So I'll be interested to see how they match up against it.
Yeah, and I think it is basic and it's accurate. Like sometimes the
Right.
simple answer is the right answer. It's going to come down to plays versus mistakes. I keep saying their ratio of making plays versus making mistakes is way too even. Like a good team has to have significantly more plays than mistakes. They don't.
Right.
Certainly, DeForest Buckner is the kind of guy that gives Cole
I love
Strange.
him. He's one of
I
my favorite players in the
He's
NFL.
great. And I think Cole Strange, people will tell me it's a bad matchup, like they like to tell me about Quinnen Williams and all these other guys that I don't know. He's paid to block because that's what
Right.
guards do, especially first round guards.
Yeah.
But that's a bad matchup. Kenny Moore, old friend, has 3 interceptions. I think they have 9 picks on the year. So
Yeah. Sounds right.
you basically have a defense that gets a pick a game against a quarterback who throws a pick a game. So there's probably going to be a pick in this game from the Patriots to the Colts at some point.
Right.
And from the Patriots, it's just like, I know Bill O'Brien, I actually give him credit. I thought he was relatively honest, but also had enough hint of optimism this week in his conference call where he keeps pointing to, yeah, we get single plays here or there that are like morsels of what we want to be and how we want to look. And, he was obviously excited about the Ramondre Stevenson long touchdown run and everybody blocked it well. And then Rager sprung him down the field. And if you give Ramondre room to run, he's going to hit it and take advantage. And I still believe that.
Yep.
They're just way too many runs where he's dancing in the backfield. He gets 1 yard, no yard, 2 yard. Like there's too much of that. But I think Bill O'Brien is still fighting the good fight in terms of the
Yeah. Yeah.
coaching. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how good they are and what plays they can make. And,
What
we
also
joke.
kind of bothered me, you mentioned Ramondre and the calls and the Bill O'Brien fighting the good fight. Like they only gave the guy 9 carries last week in a game that was pretty close and he was running pretty hard. So I know you said there was some ones where he's kind of banging against the line and it's 2
Yep.
yards, but give the guy another chance. It's not like you were down 15, 2 scores and you needed to throw the ball. Like I think they could have got him going a little bit more last week.
And I think they probably should, because
Yeah.
speaking of keep it simple, like he's one of your best players. I don't
Right.
care whether he's having a mediocre year, whatever. Like I'm a big believer when the going gets tough and like just give the ball to your best player and
100%.
see what happens. Go down swinging like that rather than trying to get too cute and I don't know, get reps to Tyquan Thornton or whatever. Like Ramondre Stevenson is an NFL ball carrier, an NFL player. Get him the ball a little more often, even if it's combination of the passing game and the run game. I think he needs more touches. What are you saving him for, kind of thing. So okay, Patriots, Mac Jones against that defense, pillow fight as you called it. We'll see.
Yep.
What's next on the Cadlicks kind of cool clashes?
So I'm going back to the quarterback here and I'm going the other guy. It's Gardner Minshew because and I wrote about this a little bit more, not really in depth, but I broke it down a little bit on weei.com. You can check it out. Crucial clashes for this
Yeah.
week. Gardner Minshew against this defense because the aura and the narrative and whatever you want to call it around Bill Belichick was, oh, he's going to take down the young, inexperienced guy. And if there's a backup or if it's Zach Wilson or if it's a rookie or, he's going to make sure that his life is a living hell on the field. And that hasn't been the case for Bill Belichick for like the better part of like the last 4 years. Deshaun Watson as a rookie came in and beat them. Drew Lock as a rookie. Granted, it was the COVID year, but he came in and beat them as a rookie. And even Sam Howell last week, second year guy, comes in and beats the Patriots. And Gardner Minshew's different. He's been around. I think it's his 5th or 6th year, but he's a journeyman backup. And in my opinion, Gardner Minshew is a fringe top 32 guy who does deserve to, potentially start in this league. But he's just that, fringe top 32. He's 10-19 in his career. He started 29 games. He kind of got the bad end of, I guess, the Jacksonville Jaguars getting the number 1 pick and getting Trevor Lawrence, but he was the quarterback and he's the one that got them to the number 1 overall pick. So,
Yep.
Long story short, I think how they defend against Minshew will tell the tale of how they win this game because Minshew's not character wise like Trent and Jack and JC, but he's a roller coaster player. Sometimes he's awesome. Sometimes he'll hand you 3 in a cornerback meeting. And I think he has like the most turnover-worthy plays either on the season or last week he had like 9 turnover-worthy plays or something crazy. So he'll throw it to you. The Patriots finally starting to get those turnovers. They've had a couple in the last 2 weeks. Still lost, but they've finally forced turnovers. So I'm curious to see how they not only match up against Minshew, but if they can turn the ball over against a guy who is sort of inexperienced and someone who you would think Bill Belichick would match up well against.
So my favorite made-up word that I'm trying to get into culture in the dictionary eventually. This game is hingent upon Gardner Minshew. Like I don't see
Again, keep
Gardner
talking.
Minshew shuts the lights off. I just think you're right. This game is either going to be Sam Howell 2.0, where he beats you and he's slinging it all over the field, and yep, he's extending plays, and yeah, you probably shouldn't make that throw. Okay, you made that throw and you completed it and it worked.
Right.
Or he throws you the ball a couple times, and we're saying, well, really, the only way the Patriots win football games is when Zach Wilson or Gardner Minshew throws them the ball and gives them the game. I think he is absolutely going to be storyline number one in this football game in terms of whether the Patriots can win or lose it. And he's, I don't know if it's gunslinger, helter skelter, Jekyll and Hyde, whatever you want to call him. You're
He's
right.
got some moxie to him. I
Absolutely.
love Gardner Minshew. He's the man in my opinion. Like he
He
just
has
goes
the,
out there, he plays football.
absolutely. And he's got the, quarterback or shooter's mentality,
Mm-hmm.
cornerback mentality. Like if he throws a pick, he's willing to throw a pick on the next play too. Like he's
Yep.
willing to take the shot. And because in his mind, he has like, dysmorphia. He sees every throw as a makeable
Mm-hmm.
throw when they're really not all makeable for him. But
And he's
so I
kind of
think that's
playing on
where it's
borrowed
going.
time too. Like if I play great, I keep playing, and if not, I go back to being a backup again. So
Right. And this is his time to start to lay the foundation for next year because this is Anthony
right,
Richardson's team. So is he
exactly.
there? Does he get a shot is he a bridge quarterback for another team somewhere that brings in a rookie or whatever? So I think Gardner Minshew is the story of this football game. How he plays will be how the way the game unfolds. And from a Patriots defensive perspective, no JC Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll see how the rest of the secondary plays out. We'll see if Jack Jones is back out there starting, if he's in his regular role, how that plays out. Because he could even, who knows, maybe he's inactive. Like it wouldn't stun me
I
if you
know.
got the inactives and he's inactive, and maybe they just didn't want Jack Jones and JC Jackson on the same side of the Atlantic Ocean hanging out together and
Yeah.
like doing bad stuff. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, they got to split them up by international waters.
Right. But the other side is like Kyle Duggar's been in the right place, right time. He's been catching the ball. If you can do
Yep.
that, you can win this matchup and you can win this game via this matchup. Okay, the third very intriguing, very important, very awesome matchup that you're keeping an eye on in this game is
Sticking with the Colts offense against the Patriots run defense this time. Patriots have actually had a pretty good run defense this year as a whole. They've let up some big plays, obviously. Most that ran wild on them, but overall they've been pretty solid. And the Colts have a little bit of a two-headed monster in their backfield. Zach Moss is the second leading rusher in the entire NFL behind only Christian McCaffrey.
it's
Um,
amazing.
it is. He's up there in yards per carry as well. And it's Zach freaking Moss. And so, okay, take that for what it's worth. Then you have Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the NFL, who was out the first 4 games. He held out, requested a trade, came back, got his money, what have you. So the last time the Patriots played this Colts team, or 2 times ago, the last time they played against Jonathan Taylor ran wild on them. 170 yards, a long touchdown to ice the game. They gave him the ball like 30 times. So we mentioned Minshew, and he's going to have to make plays at the right time, but they also have 2 really good running backs right now who can really kill you, like the both of them. So, again, I mentioned the Patriots' run defense has been pretty solid. I think with Taylor sort of slowly getting back into a groove here after being on PUP, they handled it with Zach Moss, and that just goes to show you too how good of a run blocking offensive line this team has and how good of a running scheme Shane Steichen, their new head coach, has brought there. The fact that Zach Moss was able to handle the load just as well as Jonathan Taylor could. And so, again, just looking to see how they manage that, how the Patriots defend against it, because again, the last time they got burnt by him. Looking back at the past matchups, it's kind of tough to look at last year's Colts game because it was Sam Ellinger and they spanked them, and rightfully so. But the 2 times ago was really the key with Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor, and they lost. So, looking at that, I just think I'll be interested to see how they match up against those 2 guys.
Yeah, last time Jonathan Taylor played the Patriots, he pretty much ended
Yeah,
Dante Hightower's career.
exactly. Yeah.
He was like,
So
"Yeah, it's a retirement match, buddy. You probably should call it a career because
right.
and he ended the game, obviously. I do think the Patriots' run defense has been competitive.
Hmm.
They fight the good fight. Guys like Jabril Peppers, Jelani Tavai, Jawan Bentley. You're going to get fight out of those guys. Obviously, Christian Barmore, I think, has been kind of a beast in the
Yeah,
middle,
he's been
or
awesome.
as much a beast you can be on a team that's 2-7 and losing games and things of that nature. So I actually think this is a good matchup that the Patriots should be competitive with. Now, you mentioned the scheme and the fact that Steichen has turned Zach Moss from like journeyman jag into a rushing leader type.
Right.
Also, interesting side note here, that different topic for a different day, and I don't even know if anybody would care,
Sure.
but like you really notice that for whatever reason, NFL running backs that hold out or miss time, like they can't get up to speed. Like you seeing
No.
Josh Jacobs, he sits out.
Hmm.
Obviously the classic example, Le'Veon Bell ended his career by sitting out that season.
Right.
Like you think of running back, at least in terms of rookies, it's the easiest position to play because you just get on the field, they hand you the ball, and they tell you to do what you did in
You
college, like
run
run
and you're
pass.
young and you're
Yeah.
spry. Yeah.
And yet guys miss like 4 weeks, and then it looks like they can never catch up to the treadmill of the season. And
Right.
Jonathan Taylor is trying to catch up. He's had some up and down weeks over the last month. Now, you don't want him to get right and feel good against you and
Yeah,
suddenly have
exactly.
140 yards rushing.
Yeah, you can't
But
go into this game thinking, "Oh, well, he hasn't played much, so
yeah,
screw him. We'll
we'll be
just focus
fine.
on Moss." Yeah, right.
And certainly piggybacking on if Gardner Minshew plays well and they run the ball, well, you're porked. You're going to
Right.
lose.
Right.
Because as we talked about, they do score some points. They don't really struggle to score points. That whether they win or they lose, they're going to get up north of 21, north of I think they've been 27 plus 3 straight games. So
Mhm.
Patriots are like, excuse me, 27? How many? You scored
Yeah, right.
27
What's that
points? How
mean?
do you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Dude, that's weird. No one does that. Who
Yeah.
scores 27 points in modern football? So yeah, the run
So
defense
bad. So
and the
bad if
other
that's even what we're talking about, this
oh yeah,
offense.
it's awful. The other thing is I'm a big believer you can scheme against the pass. So you can
Mhm.
scheme up Minshew.
Sure.
Sometimes run defense is a little bit of want to. Like, are
Oh,
you
yeah.
willing to be physical up front? And I think we're at a crossroads where we're wondering how invested all these Patriots players are. So their ability to play the run on defense might be a little bit of a litmus test as to how much they're still giving you
Yep.
everything they have up front.
Especially after a cross-country flight to Germany.
Yes. So this could be an area where if they fail here, it may be a sort of symbolic failure for everything that's going on and maybe
Right.
kind of waving of the white flag like this thing's over. So, Mike Cadlick, we listed the 3 big, crucial, critical, awesome matchups in this
Yep.
game. A backup quarterback, a guy who was a Jag running back, and his buddy, like all those things.
Yep.
How does this game play out on Sunday? We should remind everybody, you got to get up a little early if you're on this
Yeah.
side of the ocean. 9:30 kickoff here in the States, I believe, an NFL Network game. So if you want to
It'll
watch
also
it
air on CBS here.
and on CBS locally, but as people get up and have their coffee and donuts on Sunday morning, what kind of game they going to see?
They're gonna see a Patriots loss, Andy. This team can't do it. It's hard to back
Didn't
them.
we hire you to be positive?
Yeah, we tried. I we just talked about it. We talked about Gesicki and Juju. I tried my damnedest. No, yeah, look, I mean, could they beat them? Absolutely. They could have beat the Commanders. They could have beat the Saints. They could have beat the Dolphins 2 weeks ago, I guess. But no, I mean, look, it's hard to back them right now. It's hard to back a team that's 2-7, traveling to Germany, that has lost 2 straight now, could be 3. Like, I just don't see it. I don't see it from the offense. And the defense is okay, but losing a cornerback in J.C. Jackson and some attitude issues with that whole room, it's tough to back them right now. So, final score prediction is going to be 24-13, Indianapolis Colts. Offense isn't doing it for me. Even 24 points is low for the Colts, but that does enough. That's enough to beat the Patriots this time around. So they come back from Germany 2-8, and Bill's going to have to answer questions about his job once again. I don't think they're going to do it, but yeah, they're going to be 2-8 through 10 games. Something I never thought I'd be saying.
2-8 through 10 games, heading into the bye week, coming off yet another loss against yet another mediocre, beatable football team. For my prediction, I'll push everybody over to the 6 Rings and Football Things feed for Fitzy and I talking up, previewing the game, getting you ready for the game. My prediction may not be all that different from Mike Cadlick because if we're being honest, there's little reason to pick this football team right now. There's little reason to expect them to get the job done because they just don't really show the ability to get the job done. So he's Mike Cadlick. I'm Andy Hart. This is Six Rings and Football Things, Cadlick's Crucial Clashes edition. We promise we will finish the season. I don't know about Mac Jones. I don't know about Bill Belichick. I don't know if they'll be around come December and early January, but we will be here each and every week to give our damnedest effort to talk up the matchups in that week's coming game. Patriots against the Colts Sunday morning at Frankfurt Stadium. At least that's what Cadlick says it's called, so I'm going to believe him.
Could be
Cross the pond, get up early. Hopefully enjoy your football game. If not, go to brunch afterwards and have a good meal and save the day.
And listen to the Six Rings post-game show on the Odyssey app while you're at brunch.
That's right. I should actually tease that. Six Rings post-game show, weird time.
Afternoon edition.
Yeah, 12:30-ish. Soon as the game ends, Fitzy and myself will be on WEEI. We'll be on the Odyssey app, and you can always download the podcast of that post-game show later if you do go to brunch to enjoy your day. Either way, he's Mike Cadlick. I'm Andy Jumbo Hart, and this is Six Rings and Football Things. Out.
Thanks, everyone.